Oh, my little hungry one, open up a package of my Bologna. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis. This is the podcast where Matt, Tim, and I went and saw a movie tonight at our local Regal Cinema, and now we're sitting in the parking lot in Matt's Honda Pilot, and we're going to discuss this movie, and we're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you wait for streaming? Should you skip it all together? Should you buy snacks for the movie? Should you pass on snacks for the movie? Should you rethink all the steps in your life and change course? Or are you sturdy and doing well and you're feeling good? We strive to cover all these things. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And Todd, I'll just say change is inevitable in life. You know, as sturdy as you feel, there's always going to be change that comes into the world, and you have to learn to deal with it. And that's life.
Fair enough.
That's growth. That's how we exist here on planet Earth. And yes, Tim Davis is back with us for another episode, and we are excited to have him. And we are going to talk about a movie tonight, and this movie is called The Menu.
The Menu.
And so there's some people in it. It's got a pretty simple premise. The people who are in it are Ralph Fiennes.
Otherwise known as Ray Fine.
You could call him that if you speak correctly and know his name. You could call him that. We have Anya Taylor-Joy is in this. We've got John Leguizamo. And much to my delight, we have Judith Light appearing in this movie. Angela from Who's the Boss. If you're over a certain age. She makes her appearance. And I think that's it for kind of mainstream.
I would argue Nicholas Hoult is
I was going to say Nicholas Hoult.
You can argue Nicholas Hoult.
He was in Mad Max Fury Road. He was in the X-Men movies as the Young Beast. He's been in a few other... He's on a fantastic show called The Great on Hulu.
And which character is he in this?
He is the boyfriend who's so obsessed with the food.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
He plays characters like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and then that's it?
I would argue yes, as far as celebrities go. Yeah.
Okay. So what's this movie about? Well, it's a simple premise. There's this very exclusive restaurant called The Hawthorne, which is on an island that you have to take a boat to, and it's very expensive, and it's very exclusive, and it's hard to get in there. And there's
$12.50.
Yes,
a head.
Not $12.50.
No,
much higher. Anyway, so you've got this restaurant. You've got people going to it. They're somewhat pretentious, as you would think, and that's the setup. So people going to a restaurant, they get dropped off by a boat because it's on an island, and then and so they kind of take a tour of the island. They learn about the island a little bit. We learn a little bit about the people who are there, and then they sit down for a multi-course dinner with this famous chef, and he introduces kind of each course of the meal with like a little story, theatrical thing, and then I'll just say things take a turn for the worst, take a turn for the unexpected. And I won't reveal exactly what happens, but the rest of the movie is really the characters trying to decide what they're going to do about the things that they've learned.
Finish the meal.
They're going to finish the meal. Yes. And that's all you can reveal without any spoilers, I think. But
yeah, there's a lot in this movie to reveal that shouldn't be revealed.
Right.
So it's a hard one.
Yes,
for sure. Toughie.
So, well, speaking of toughies, Tuffy Todd Let's have your gut reaction to the menu.
They call me TT.
TT, Tuffy Todd.
So, I'll start by saying that I think the acting performances in this movie are really good. I think, because this movie doesn't have a lot of action. It doesn't have a lot of much besides people sitting in a room discussing and talking. And I felt like everyone played their character very well and really brought it. Okay, except for, is it Anya
Taylor-Joy.
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 So I don't think she was bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm kind of just starting to notice a trend in the movies that she's in that it's a lot of staring on her part, and it's like that's a lot of how she is acting, but it's the same stare for every scenario, and it just makes it a little like I can't tell if she's trying or not at times, or like if she's trying so hard, or like it was a little weird. Like, and I just thought with everyone else in the movie, almost not, I'm not going to say outshined her, but like I just thought they brought it more. So it's not a total knock against her, but an important note that I want to emphasize. And then you have a very interesting story. Like, I think this is feels original to me. It's just a very, very interesting story. That as the story progresses and you learn more and where everything's going, there's certainly a whole bunch of ups and downs in the story. Like, I thought some of it was like really, really smart, and then I thought some of it was like not that I don't understand, but I was like, I don't really know. Like, it stopped clicking with me at times, but not like I was completely out of the movie or anything. I just found myself going like, at times I think they somewhat complicated it too much. Like, I think that, and maybe it was because my own, like, where I wanted the movie to go and it didn't go, and so I'm like disappointing myself, maybe. I don't know. The story's very, very good. The acting is very, very good. The execution and the layout of the movie is good. At times I thought it was slow. Like it took a while. It was a long build up until stuff starts to happen. Which in some cases is good because you need time to like build the characters and stuff like that. But my problem with the movie and the pacing for this specific movie is that you're not really learning too much about the characters because the back half is all these kind of revelations. So it's not like you're not learning too much. It's just kind of like everyone's there. Things are happening. And then the story starts to pick up. I think this was a worthwhile movie to see. I think, I guess for the sake of the movie doing well, go see it in theaters, but I don't think there's anything about the theater experience that enhances this movie. I feel like you could watch this movie at home and almost get the same experience. It's just not one of those movies. It's not a blockbuster. There's no CGI. It's not like, it's shot pretty well, but like it 90% of the movie takes place in this one room. So I think like if you didn't see it in theaters, you're not missing too much as far as that goes. I did like it. I just think it's got some little things that kind of like drew me out a little bit, but overall it's got a pretty solid story. It gets a little artsy in my opinion as we get closer to the end. Maybe again, I think that's probably my own fault. Like I was like, I wanted the movie to go in one direction and it didn't. So now I'm all kind of pouty over here, but we all can't have everything we want. It's a lesson I've got to learn. So, But otherwise, yeah, if you're going to see this movie and you wanted to see it in theaters, I would encourage people to see it in theaters, but I don't think it's a movie that's going to translate well to streaming and watching it at home. So, but yeah, I think you got solid performances, a very interesting story, and yeah, I mean, I'm caught between the originality of the story and how much I dug it, and then the little things that bothered me, and I'm just like caught in the middle of those two things. So, I'm going to end my review because it seems like a good time to jump out the car of my review.
It was like, where are you going, Todd?
Yeah, I'm just hopping out the vehicle.
Leaving the podcast
Nope,
for the evening?
just leaving my rambling.
Okay.
So, Tim, how'd you feel about this whole movie?
I really enjoyed it on many levels. I kind of took it as the whole movie was a menu, and it was paced like one of those fancy 5-course meals, where you start off with the entertainment and everybody getting settled, everybody kind of, you're figuring out the place. You just got there, you don't know what you're getting. Some people know what they're in for, but not everybody. And then starts with little things here, because you start with your even using all the terms of that world, amuse-bouche, and your small courses to begin the day, and you're kind of settling in. And then when it comes time for the main courses, the movie kicks in as well. And I really dug that, and I thought that was clearly planned that way. And the whole thing, like, I think the word you used, Matt, was fantastic and pretentious. And this movie seems to have a definite biting, like all the food puns you want to use, satire of that world, of like the super rich, chef-driven restaurants that are all about how fancy things in, and deconstruction and emulsion, and like the things, as someone who watches Top Chef a lot, and sometimes they'll talk about stuff like that, and I'm like, what? Just give me food. And I love that show, but there are times where I'm like, okay, what are we talking about here? Let's just eat some food. And this movie clearly is trying to have a statement about that world, while also delivering an entertaining, story, like you said, where it felt new and different, and it had something to say, while also going where a Hollywood movie would go at times, as far as like, we're gonna, take something and go maybe a little more with it than you expect, or not expect in some cases. But I agree with all the acting. The acting was great. I guess I haven't seen enough of Anya's performances to think she drug anything down. I thought everybody was about the same. Ralph Fiennes is clearly the star of this movie. I think without him, I'm not sure it would have worked as well. I want to give a shout out to Hong Chow, who was the main, I guess,
Maitre d'?
Of the restaurant. I thought she played her role excellently, and really had some good delivery on certain lines that really kind of set the tone. I like the music, which was minimal, but they used it well and kind of set the scenes in various times. And there are title cards, which are very fun, like a menu where they're listing things, and there were jokes in them as the movie went on, but not like ha-ha funny jokes, but like just kind of adding a little bit more to the satire. And I don't know, it all clicked for me really well. So I am a big fan of this movie. I do agree it's not a must-see in the theater, but I do think it should be seen. It is a very clever and fun, and even suspenseful is a good word, movie that as it unfolds, you're like, wow, this is getting even more interesting. And I can't wait to see what happens. And that's where I'll leave it. Matt?
Well, I'll say this about that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with a lot of what you both said already. I won't rehash too much of that. But I will say that I like the movie. I like what they're doing with the story that they were telling. And it was almost like, because we have this situation where everyone's in this dining room basically for the entire movie, you get to know a little bit about each of the characters, and I think a beautiful part about this movie is that you sort of are looking for how each character's kind of plot is going to be resolved in its own way. And I liked that a lot of the characters had a resolution, or they had an epiphany, or they had, something. Not all of them, and I thought that on the opposite side of things was a little bit of a disappointment for me. Like, I wanted to know what happened to everyone.
Correct.
And there were some characters who it seemed like they were going down a road of like they're going to figure out this thing about their lives, and then, well, we're never going to follow up on that. We're going to kind of leave that. Yeah. And maybe some of that's on the editing room floor, and that can happen. But we did hit the main characters. We hit the main plot points. But I did feel like there were some things that were just kind of thrown in there that could have been explored a lot more. There's a relationship between a couple of the people who are in the dining room together, and you find out about what the relationship is, but there's never like a resolution of that. There's just like a passing mention of it. And there's some other suspenseful or partially suspenseful moments in the movie that are just there for pure suspense. Like there's a scene with a boat at the end, and someone is trying to start the boat, and it's supposed to be super suspenseful, and then the boat just starts and everything's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why was that a point of emphasis to make it so suspenseful?
Well,
I think that goes back to the way they were making it like a menu.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, the greatest twist of the movie that I can't discuss, it's like it happens, and then it's just not delved into at all. Like, you don't understand. Like, it's just like it's there, and it's like, oh, that's a good twist, and then it's just like really not talked about ever. Like, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It went. Yeah. I agree.
I mean, I liked it.
We're not saying we didn't like it.
No. I'm saying I think I know what you're getting at with the twist, and we can't talk about it. But it worked for me.
I think one thing that the movie did was they expected you to carry on some things in your mind and figure some things out yourself.
I don't mind that.
And that's okay. I like that in some circumstances, in many circumstances even. But I did think that I wish they would have been a bit more on the nose with some of their resolutions. I'll put it that way.
It got lazy a little bit at times, in my opinion. Like, so this is not a spoiler at all, but there's several times in the movie, the chef is talking about how everything about this night has been like meticulously planned for a long time. And then there's like one point where he's talking to another guest, like not Anna, but another woman who he has no idea who she is. And I'm like, come on now. Like you just said several times like how meticulous everything was. And I mean, it's not a big part. It's just like little things like that. I was like, did the writers just like be like, we're going to wrap everything up so we can't go into this kind of stuff or what? It just was like, for a movie that I thought was super clever and smart in different areas, I felt like that aspect was kind of lazy. But I guess like that's the difference between an 1.5-hour movie and a 2.5-hour movie is the time to do all that.
Fair. Yes. Well, anyway, all that to say is, my negatives for the movie were there, but they were not major negatives. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed I enjoyed the journey that we took. in the dining room of this fancy restaurant on an island. And I come away saying, yeah, you can see this movie. It's uncomfortable. It's satirical.
Yeah.
It's biting in its satire at different points. Tense, yes. But overall, I mean, I think it's a good ride. It's a fun ride. So that is where I'll leave it.
Fair. Well, getting down to business here.
Getting down to business.
How many scissor stabs and thighs would you give this movie? Which plays a part in this movie?
I thought you might go broken emotions.
Obviously, 5 being the best because you have the most stabby you can handle.
Yes.
And then 0 being not good because then you got no thighs to stab with scissors. So let's start with Matt.
We will start with me, and I'm going to give you a rating of 3.3 stabs to the thigh with the tiny scissors. I thought the movie was good enough and interesting enough to bump up a little in rating above average, but there were a few minor things that kind of kept it from soaring as high as it possibly could. So 3.3 little scissor stabs to the thigh out of 5.
Fair. Tim?
I'm about in that range too. I enjoyed it a little more, and so I'm putting it right at a 3.6.
3.6. Little scissor stabs to the thigh.
To the thigh.
Yes.
Precisely.
Fair. Honestly, I'm not far off from either of you. I did really like the originality of the story. I find it so refreshing nowadays to go to a movie and it feel original. Like, just because you don't get a whole lot of that nowadays. Similarly thinking about like Barbarian or something where it's like you know, like it stands out because it's just, it's different. So I'm at a nice 3.0. Like, I think there's a lot of good in this. There's some stuff I didn't like, which, like Matt so eloquently said, kept the rating from soaring as high as it could. But still a solid movie all around, I think. And certainly, besides little frustrations on my part, an enjoyable watch. So that's where I'm at.
You wouldn't be sending the food back, is what you're saying.
I would not send this food back. No. But on the way home from the restaurant, I would be talking about it a lot.
Yeah. Might go on Yelp.
I would really like to eat a cheeseburger
I would
right
too.
now. I would like that. Well, any other comments before we wrap it up here, my friends?
I am just hungry now.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest podcaster Tim Davis.
Yeah.
And we reviewed, or we gave our gut reactions to the menu tonight. And I believe I can take some solace, some credit, some excitement in saying that our average rating was my rating, 3.3 stabs to the thigh with a little tiny pair of scissors. That's a good rating. It's above average, and we don't really think you need to see this in theaters. You can wait till streaming because it doesn't really matter. But, you know, if you're going out on the town.
If you felt like having the experience that we had so that you could share that through the podcast, then go see it in theaters.
Yes. Fair enough. So, Thank you, all listeners, subscribers, fellow podcasters, everyone who hears my voice. Thank you. And we will see you next time.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
Everybody.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.